So, as you can see from the title, I'm going to be talking about overcoming challenges by reconnecting to our purpose. But the reality is that I had a really hard time coming up with the topic this week, but not for the normal reason. Normally, I struggle with what should I talk about? What would be valuable to hear or to express? This week, I had the exact opposite dilemma. I had too many things I wanted to talk about, and I couldn't decide which one. A lot of things happened this week, and a lot of things have been happening recently, and it's been a little bit crazy. Good, bad. We had Mia had her birthday. She turned 12, and I thought, well, I could talk about the joys and the challenges of raising children. I thought I could talk about the discouragement of dealing with, difficult situations in the community. I thought I could talk about, the journey of, having our previous minivan totaled and trying to find a new one and making that kind of work and everything. Or getting back into renovations again. Another crazy thing that happened this week is that our boy's middle school teacher was arrested because it turns out that he's a child molester. I thought I could talk about that because that was a shock. I think our boys are okay. Obviously, that situation has affected them, but they weren't touched or anything like that. But, as a parent, that's a worst case kind of thing. You never want to see happen to anybody. Of course, your children, but my heart really, feels sick for the other children. Some of those other children who and the parents who trusted this person and were damaged because of it, and the journey they will have to go through to try to heal from that. So there's just a lot of emotion there. But in the end, after all that and going through many things this week, I decided I just wanted to talk about this because it's connected to all of that. And it's something that, I don't know about you, but I go through often, I think about often. And, the reality is that we go through turbulence in life. We can go through periods of time where things are smooth and things are going well, but inevitably turbulence, hardship, obstacles come on our way, and we have to know how to deal with them. We have to know how to overcome them, hopefully. And I think that no matter what kind of life we try to live, inevitably we're going to run into some challenges. But I think that as people who are trying to do something for God too, that also adds in an extra element of challenge as well. When we hit these challenges, sometimes we feel like we just want to lower our expectations, or maybe we want to give up, or we want to try to go where things might be easier, look for an easier path. But it's in times like these that we have to be connected to or reconnect to our purpose. Because it's easy as time goes by or as we go through challenges in life to lose sight of our purpose, what drives us, what gets us up out of bed in the morning, to get discouraged about what we're striving for in our life, whether that's related to our families, our faith, our careers, or whatever it is. I know that for Adonia and I, we're coming up on 10 years of pastoring, and we have to go back, and we have to remember, why did we start in the first place? Like, what drove us to abandon our comfortable life in the countryside of Missouri and come out here to I don't know how to say, crime-ridden middle of Denver. why did we do that? Because we had a very specific reason. There's many, many reasons why we did. But, that was 10 years ago. 10 years have passed. A lot of things have happened since then. Our kids are getting older. We've met some difficult challenges. We've had some wonderful experiences. And, it can be easy. And 10 years is a relatively short period of time. It's long for us. But, in the scheme of things, or in the grand scheme of life, it's relatively short. There have been times in the last 10 years where we've really questioned that decision. But we always go back to the why. Why did we, what do we hope for in our life? What do we hope for our family, for our kids? What kind of life do we want to live? And whenever we do that, we always come back to the same place. This is why we decided to do it. It's worth whatever sacrifices are needed to be able to get to where we're going. And there are sacrifices needed. That's something I think sometimes we forget about, conveniently. This is an excerpt from the Divine Principle, where it's talking about some of the stories in the Old Testament. This is specifically about Abraham. So it's saying that, let us examine what is meant by the verse that birds of prey descended upon the carcasses. So this is when Abraham was making the offering to God, and he didn't cut the offerings the way that God had asked him to. So he says, since the fall of the first human ancestors, Satan has always been stalking those with whom God worked to fulfill his will. I want to read that sentence again because it really stuck out to me. Since the fall of the first human ancestors, Satan has always been stalking those with whom God worked to fulfill his will. That is very sad. Feels a little bit unfair. Your life is hard enough, right? You've got, Satan stalking people who are trying to do God's will, who are trying to do the right thing, who are trying to overcome their circumstances and try to do something for God. And he's on their back, looking for any opportunity to go in and, spoil their offering, or to make them resentful or bitter about the way the things that they did in their life, that they were good. What kind of person does that? So going on, it says, when Cain and Abel were making their sacrifices, Satan was couching at the door. In the story of Noah, the raven circling around signifies how Satan was looking for an opportunity to invade Noah's family right after the flood. Similarly, when Abraham was making his symbolic offering, Satan was on the lookout for an opportunity to seize the sacrifice. He profaned it as soon as he saw that the birds were not divided. The Bible describes this by the image of birds of prey descending upon the sacrifice. So the Bible is full of these stories, and there's a lot of metaphor and imagery and lessons that we haven't understood until the principle explained them to us. And one of them is this point, that evil, or Satan, or the dark side, or whatever we want to call it, is always looking for an opportunity to come in and take away what we invested into for a good purpose. It's always looking for a way to rip it away from us, or to make it seem insignificant, or to make it seem pointless. And we have to be wary of that. We have to be careful about that, because it happens a lot to a lot of people. I think that this is why even though it can be very easy when we go through life and we experience hardship, to lose sight of what was our purpose, or like what we were hoping for our life many years ago, or whatever it is. It can happen in our marriages, like after we are together for many years, it can become easy to kind of forget, like, why am I with this person? Things aren't as wonderful as they used to be, or we have, young children now, and there just never seems to be enough time, or there never seems to be enough energy, or we can't be as romantic as we used to be, or all these things, right, come along, and we forget, or we lose sight of the beauty that maybe was there at one point, or the commitment that was there at one point, or what it was there for. Sometimes we need a new reason. Maybe sometimes the old reason isn't compelling anymore. I remember when we were coming up on our third year of pastoring, and we realized that the level of commitment that we had coming into this wasn't really empowering us anymore. Because some of you remember this, some of you weren't here at that time, but at that time when we first came, we had the commitment level that was more or less, let's just see how this goes. We had one foot in, we had one foot out. We figure we'll give it a few years. After a few years, we'll have a sense of whether this is really worthwhile, if it's really working. And if it's not, we always have plan B, And but after 3 years, we were like, man, this is really cool. I can see this is working. This is making a difference. This is valuable for the community. It's valuable for us. We feel, fulfillment from it. We feel excited about the future. Of course, not to say that there weren't challenges. Actually, that third year was really challenging. But we came to a point of like a recommitment. And recommitments are interesting because we don't really talk about recommitments that much in our culture, right? Like you get committed, like you commit to a job, or like you commit to your marriage or whatever. Maybe we do a big thing about it. But then, sometimes along the way, it's actually really valuable to recommit, maybe in a new way, or with a new reason, or with a understanding. Okay, I understand now more clearly what sacrifices or what challenges are involved in this whole marriage thing, or this whole pastoring thing, or whatever. And even still, I choose to recommit to it because I believe in it as much now, or if not more, than I did when I first started. That's a really beautiful thing. I think we need to do more recommitting. I don't know how or whatever, but just throwing that out there. Someday we'll do something like that. But this whole week and the things that happened and the things I've been thinking about really got me thinking a lot about purpose. Like, why do we do the things that we do? What pulls us out of bed? Why do we get out of bed in the morning? Do we just get out of bed because that's what we have to do? Because you can't sleep forever? Or because you have to be at work at a certain time, or because your kids are waking you up, or whatever? Or are we being pulled out of bed because there's a purpose for which I am living my life, and of which I am excited about, or at the very least feel a yearning or a calling towards? It's not always exciting. On a day-by-day basis, we often think about our purpose as the things that we are doing. I'm going to school. I'm working. I'm making money. I'm taking care of the kids. Those things aren't really our purpose. They're things that we all have to do. They're things that are part of many people's lives. But they aren't the goal of our life. They aren't what we want to see happen in our life. They're just a part of getting to that, what we want in life, hopefully. Everything is connected to purpose. Making money isn't purpose in and of itself. Having a job is not a purpose in and of itself. Going to school, even retiring, many people are living to retire, right? Working to retire. But retirement is just another step in life. It's not a purpose in and of itself. These are things that can support a purpose, but they aren't a purpose by themselves. So in order for us to understand purpose, our purpose, my purpose, your purpose, we have to understand what is God's purpose first. This is from the Divine Principle. It says, the ultimate purpose of the universe, with human beings at its center, is to return joy to God. All entities have dual purposes. In God's ideal, there cannot be any individual purpose which does not support the whole purpose, nor can there be any whole purpose that does not guarantee the interests of the individual. The infinite variety of beings in the universe form one vast organic body interwoven by these dual purposes. So we have to think, if this is true, then how can my purpose in life, whatever that may be a form of giving joy to God, while at the same time finding personal fulfillment and joy myself, in such a way that the two don't take away from one another, but are just one and two sides of the same coin. I think this is really the challenge that each and every one of us is faced with in life, because I know many people who are very religious and can easily kind of go to the extreme of, well, serving God is all that really matters, even at the detriment of themselves, their family. And I know many people who are the opposite, who, maybe believe that there's a God, but the idea of living my life in a way that brings joy to God or addresses one of God's needs is completely out of their perspective, unimportant. And the important thing is to take care of my needs, my family needs, make sure I'm happy. And I believe that we need to find something somewhere in the middle. And I think that's going to look a little bit different for each person. But we have to ask ourselves, how can my life be a form of giving joy to God and experiencing personal fulfillment at the same time? I believe that if we can answer that question, that will go a long way in helping us to discover how I can live how I can find purpose in my life, if you haven't found it already. When we put that concept in our perspective or in our lens, the things that often really come up in my experience with people, when we really seek to discover, what do I really want in my life, a lot of other things come up. Not the typical things that we talk about with the career and the money and things like that, or the education. It's often things like, I want to help others based off the life experience and the things that I've gone through, good and bad. I want to help others who maybe are going through what I went through. Or I want to help others who could benefit from the experiences that I've had. I want to work to build a better world, whether that's through caring for people around me, or working to build better technology or a better understanding of how to do things. I want to care for future generations. I want to build a loving family. I want to be a part of God's work to build the kingdom on earth. I want to attend the Lord of the Second Advent. These are things that many times when we really look deeply at what do I really want in my life, then these are things that kind of come up. But they get drowned out by the daily things that we deal with and the challenges that we deal with. But when you get really down to it, those are oftentimes the things that we want, really. Which are, once again, we go back to the three great blessings: to be fruitful, to multiply, and have dominion. Which are the things that God wanted for his children, the things that he asked of us from the beginning. But it's important that we learn from history. It's important that we learn from the past. It's important that we take lessons that are being shared with us to heart. Because if we don't, then we end up dealing with the same challenges and not knowing how to overcome them. And so when I was reading that part earlier from the Divine Principle where it talked about, the challenges of people that tried to do God's will and how Satan was, always looking for an opportunity to attack them, and we look at the story of people in the Bible, it's important that we learn, I think, some important lessons. One of the things that I what that I took away from that is that things often get worse before they get better. We want comfort. And when we're dealing with a difficult situation, we just want it to get better. Even if it means we have to run away, go somewhere else, be around different people. And I'm not saying that that's never a good option or never a good thing, but we tend to want to just run away many times. I felt it. I'm guessing you guys have felt it at times. And I think that the reality is sometimes that doesn't help. Sometimes we think, if I just change my circumstances, then things will be better. If I'm not around this person anymore, if I'm not around this situation anymore, if I just had more money, if I was in a different place, then my life would be better. And I think that if you've ever done that before, you will discover that your problems will follow you wherever you go. And sometimes we have to take a good look at ourselves and realize, maybe some of this is coming from within. Maybe some of this is just an expression of some of the challenges that I haven't really addressed. So sometimes we just have to take a stand and just make a commitment and be like, I'm just going to deal with this. I'm going to work through it. I'm going to make it better, no matter what my circumstances are. The next one is that Satan, evil, dark side, whatever you want to call it, wants to spoil your offering. It wants to take all the good that you have done in your life and twist it around and make it worthless. At least make us feel like it was worthless, like it wasn't valuable. It didn't really help anybody. It didn't really mean anything to God. Wasted your youth or whatever. And I think we have to be really careful about that, because I don't think that God thinks in such ways. God thinks in such terms. I think that from God's perspective, all the offerings that we make and the things that we do out of a sincerity and a desire to do God's will and to do something for God have meaning. And he can use those things to do bigger things in our lives and the lives of the people around us. But if we turn around and we say, God, how could you let this happen to me? I wasted, why did I ever make this decision? Why did I ever join this church? Why did you lead me in this direction? We become bitter and resentful about our life and towards God. Then it really makes it hard for God to use those offerings that we made, because we don't even value them. So we have to be careful, and we have to practice gratitude even in the difficult circumstances, because those things that we offered, those things that we did, those things that we sacrificed, they do have value. And you have to decide which voice you're going to listen to. And the last point that I took away from this section on the Old Testament is that no major victory in the Bible came without overcoming an equally challenging obstacle. Or another way of saying it is, nothing worth striving for in life will come easily. And so every time that God called somebody to do something, there was an equally challenging obstacle that had to be, or obstacles that had to be overcome in order for that person to be able to get the victory. And in our life as well, if we seek to want to do something big, then there will be big obstacles on our path. If we decide, I really want something for my life, and I'm willing to commit for it, then we could expect that there will be challenges that will be on our path that we will have to overcome on the journey to be able to accomplish whatever it is we were setting out for. So in light of these things, we have to remember to never forget why we started off on the path to begin with. Why was I seeking God? Why did I join this movement? Why did I join this church? Why did I decide to get married? Why did I decide to receive the blessing? Why did I have a family? Why am I here today? If you find yourself at a crossroads in life or a time of challenge, these are the questions that are important to ask ourselves, because they help us to get in touch with what's real. They help us to get in touch with a point in my life where I really came to a raw experience with God, with myself, with the people in my life. That's probably if you ask yourselves these questions and you think back to a time, it's probably the most real experience you ever had in your life. And we can't forget those experiences. Those are precious. Nothing can take those experiences away from us. So I'd like to finish off with one final quote from our founder, Reverend Moon. He said, "We are all created to be great men and women. God did not send us into this world without purpose. When God created us, he invested his complete love into each person. We are all created for greatness. Because God exists, we can accomplish anything. I became a completely different person when I began to love God. I loved humanity more than myself and was more concerned with the problems of others than the problems of my family. I loved everything that God created. I deeply loved the trees on the hills and the fish in the waters. My spiritual senses developed so I could discern God's handiwork in all things of creation." He went on to talk a little bit about how many parents are concerned about their kids' academics and college education and things. And then he says, "There is, however, something more important than studying to prepare for the future. Before unconditionally focusing entirely on studies, young people must realize what they want to do in life. They must make a determination to use whatever are their talents to help the world, rather than just for their own sake. Unless you have a purpose in life, your studies will lack the passion needed for happiness. Also, do not define your life goal in terms of how much money you want to make. I have never received a salary, but I managed to eat and stay alive. Money is a means to do something, not the goal. Before you make money, have a plan for spending it. Money gained without a prior objective will soon be wasted. Your choice of occupation should not just be based on your talents and interests. To set your objective is to give meaning to the life you will lead. To become a world-class soccer player takes incredible work. If you do not have a definite purpose in your heart, you will not be able to endure the difficult training required to reach the top. Only if you have an objective will you have the power to maintain your course and live a life that is cut above those around you." So I really like to touch on this topic from time to time because I really, I think about it a lot. Why am I getting out of bed this morning? Is it just because it's my habit? Because I want to live a life where I get out of bed because I feel called to a purpose. And I think, guessing most of you, all of you, feel the same way. But answering the question of what is my purpose, it changes everything. What are my goals in life? How am I going to get there? How am I going to live every single moment, every single day of my life? It's all determined by what I want. What is my purpose? And so, but we can have a purpose and it's not fulfilling. So at this time, I think maybe I'm just reflecting on this because we're at 10 years. And I'm thinking a lot about why did we embark on this journey to begin with? Maybe some of you are in a similar place in your life for a different reason. But I encourage you to ask these tough questions, and maybe it will bring some new perspective to your heart. I hope. I don't know. I hope so. So I'm going to offer prayer to finish the sermon. Dearest Heavenly Parent, good morning. We know, Heavenly Parent, that in this world, there are so many different kinds of people. And people who don't believe in you, people who believe in you but don't really want you to be in their life, people who want you to be a part of their life but don't know how to do it, and everything in between. And I believe that we are all here today because we want you to be a part of our life. And we want to live our life bringing you joy and finding joy in our own life and the things that we are doing. But I think that we all find ourselves struggling how to do that sometimes. And I think that we all hit difficult times where we lose sight of our hopes and our purpose, even if at one point in our life it was very clear to us. And we get discouraged. And I think that you see our lives and you see our discouragement, and and I think you understand why we feel discouraged at times, why things are not always going to be smooth. And I think that you've experienced it too. And I pray, Heavenly Parent, that your steadfastness, your patience can come into each and every one of us. That if we are dealing with some challenge in our life at this time, if we struggle with purpose or struggle to overcome some challenge that we're dealing with, we really ask for your guidance, Heavenly Parent. We ask for your support and your wisdom, because we don't want to just go through life without purpose. We don't want to forget about the purpose that we had. And so we know that you see our life. You see the things that we have had to deal with. And we know that you have a purpose for each person here, Heavenly Parent. I really pray and hope that we can get in touch with that purpose, that we can tap into the hope that you have for each person in this world, and the hope that you have for me, and the hope that you have for each and every single person here, Heavenly Parent. A hope that maybe we don't even understand or we don't even see, but we know that it must be there. Please guide us, Heavenly Parent. Please help us to recognize that the things that we have done up until now in our life are precious. You appreciate them. You treasure them. And I pray, Heavenly Parent, that we can reconnect with the value of the things that have been offered to you, that we can never let evil spoil them, Heavenly Parent, and that we can walk and live in gratitude for the things that we have in our life, Heavenly Parent, the things that many times we had to fight for to be in our life at this time, but they're there. And the things that we don't have, that we can fight for them. Because we know that you are a God who's always striving for a goal. You're striving for something, and you're never going to give up on it, Heavenly Parent. And if we can tap into that heart, then it will give us the strength to never give up on the things that we want. But the difficulties, sometimes they get so difficult. They get so hard to surmount, Heavenly Parent. And I just pray that we can have the strength, the love, the heart to go beyond them, Heavenly Parent, that we can walk on this journey together, that we can support one another. And I thank you, Heavenly Parent, that we could be here this morning, that we could share with one another. And for this message, I offer his prayer in my name, Michael Adonia Hendrick. Blessed our family. Amen. Adieu. Thank you.